Welcome back. My guest today is a pro natural physique bodybuilder. He's a medical doctor of radiology, a practicing radiologist, and he makes science-based content on fitness on his YouTube channel, Dr. Swole. Please welcome Bill Wong. How you doing today, Bill?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
For sure, man. I'm excited. One of the things that I like, what I really appreciate, is sort of the battle on YouTube between bro science, which isn't always wrong, but it tends to be sort of anecdotal, versus actual hard science, like peer-reviewed ideas. And one thing I appreciate is that you went viral in a lot of cases for making science-based workout routines. And then you also had that one video where I was looking at the Mark Wahlberg stuff, and then I remember my trainer is making me do dips while I'm doing battle ropes, and you're like, that is not an effective way to train. So I was wondering how did you get into that?
Yeah, so I used to run track. I was a college track athlete, and I did that all the way through med school. But my favorite part of it was the gym, the workout program that we ran after training. And after I quit track, I ended up getting into bodybuilding just because I felt like I needed a competitive outlet. Yeah. And when you look at things objectively, the best people to learn from when it comes to physique are natural bodybuilders, because those are the guys who actually have optimized building muscle and losing fat, and they actually do it naturally. Yeah. I think a lot of guys take misinformation from pro IFBB pro bodybuilders or guys who are souped up on steroids, where the physiology is different. And what people don't realize is that there's actually a body of science now that's actually dedicated towards improving your physique, towards building muscle and losing fat. So there actually is a scientific way to go about this.
Yeah, and when you talk about the scientific way, one of the reasons, the issue that you see the natty or not stuff online all the time, and very frequently you're getting health advice from a guy who's blasting steroids trying to tell you how to get in shape. And it is really interesting. And by the way, I don't judge people if they want to take steroids. That's not the issue. But it's one of these things where I don't take dating advice from a guy who goes to Colombia and pays a bunch of prostitutes. I don't take fitness advice specifically about my diet from a guy who's blasting trenbolone. So like, you understand what I'm saying? And so I think that's where kind of the disconnect happened. I have seen on your show, you do a lot about debunking myths. What are some like massive myths that you see?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest myths is that steroids will make you look better. I think that this is something that we overturned in a bunch of street interviews that we did, asking girls about what the optimal male physique was. And girls actually prefer a natural physique more than a guy who's juiced to the gills. And we would show a picture of someone like Chris Bumstead and then compare it to a physique, my physique actually. And more often than not, girls would prefer the natural physique over the guy who is totally bulked up. That's something that a lot of guys are hung up on, because guys think that girls want the same things that they want. For guys, we feel that bigger is better. Like, we want to be that massive monster in the gym, the biggest guy, pushing the most weight. But girls don't necessarily like that. Once you get beyond the natural look, it starts becoming unattractive to them. Yeah,
evolutionarily, the 260-pound bodybuilder can't hunt the gazelle. He actually, if you look at this from an ancestral period, from Pleistocene epoch, that a guy that big is actually evolutionarily disadvantageous. To be 6'8" and be 300 pounds, that's good for an NFL offensive lineman, but it's not good for the guy who has to hunt, right? Or protect the trout, or even be some kind of warrior. So you're right. It's like, and then when you say natural physique, by the way, just so the audience knows, you're meaning more closer to like, what's his face in Fight Club? Well, I can't remember. Brad Pitt in Fight Club, right?
Yeah.
That Tyler Durden look, where he's just like really lean and ripped, as opposed to, the Hulk Hogan look.
So we showed them a bunch of physiques ranging from celebs, pro athletes, bodybuilders. So people like Chris Bumstead or Chris Hemsworth were actually rated a bit lower. People like Ryan Terry, so pro bodybuilder types. The best rated physiques were probably Steph Curry, Zac Efron from Baywatch, and what's the other one? Michael B. Jordan. Girls really liked that kind of look. So the lean, kind of 10 to 15% body fat, some muscle, but not excessive, and looking athletic. That's what girls like.
Mack and Murphy was talking about some of the data on this, and it's that women still do want men who are more muscular than average, but not humongous. And then the other data that I saw on this that was really interesting, it was a 2017 study where they looked at the variance. So they showed several pictures. I'm trying to remember. It wasn't Oklahoma State. No, it was the Royal Society who did this. And they look at several pictures of physiques, and then they try to rate them for variance. So for instance, height counted a certain percentage, thinness counted a certain percentage, lower body muscle, upper body, all these different things. And 70% of the variance was upper body muscle. Like women seeing some upper body muscle, but not, like you said, not being huge. And I think one of the problems is a guy does a cycle of Anavar, and he does get some compliments from women because he looks different. So he thinks he needs to do twice as much the next time, and then twice as much the next time to get the same dopamine hit. And then next thing you know, he's like mega vascular with oily skin and, you know, acne, and his hair's falling out, and he's, you know, screaming at his car. Like that's what happens at the end, because they think that first time they got a little bit better, or like in the natural physique thing, that like the guys think that you also see this with girls, they'll get a boob job, right? And then they'll get a bigger one. And the next thing you know, they've got an 1800 cc boob job because it's that dopamine hit at first, the noticing they get, and they just keep going bigger and bigger. It's an overperception bias.
Yeah. The other thing is that guys don't realize that a lot of these pro bodybuilders are successful with women because of their confidence and their other accomplishments, not necessarily because they're bigger, but guys have this association and make that mistake.
The opposite side of the scale, women tend to think they need to be skinnier than the average man likes. So again, Dr. Buss was talking about this, where women prefer the 7 out of 10 muscular physique, like more muscular than average, but not the 10 out of 10 Arnold Schwarzenegger physique. And women think that men want the Twiggy. They think that men want that, and they want a little bit more towards the fitness model look, you know, with a little bit of curves. That's what they're more into. And so you see women will have, again, these eating disorders will come from this a lot too, where women will be concerned about being incredibly skinny when that's not really what men want.
Yeah, so it's an issue in bodybuilding actually, because on stage, so I'm also a judge in the WNBF, which is the World Natural Bodybuilding Federation. And we reward leanness. So on stage, girls are really lean, like they have 6 packs. Yeah. And a lot of girls in fitness feel like that they need to be that shredded to be attractive to guys, but it's totally not true.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. The other one that I've seen is the girl who, the same kind of situation, girl takes a cycle of Anavar. A lot of girls here at the pools are doing this, and they get the most lean they've ever been in their life. They get hired at a pool, so they keep doing it, but then we start getting the androgenic responses where the body hair, their waist gets thicker, their voice drops, that kind of stuff. I've met several girls who were bodybuilders before, and they have super deep voices because they overdid it with the Anavar. So that's another thing that I've seen happen. Like you said before, the super leanness, it's like getting drunk. Some people will have 2 beers and they'll get a little drunk, but they keep drinking, trying to chase that buzz. It seems like the same thing that happens with anabolics, where people will get that look and then they'll just want more and more and more.
Yeah. What girls find the most attractive, and when it comes to the physique, is the V taper, having that shoulder to waist ratio, 1.6. And what we found is that girls will accept a range of body fat percentages. You know, I usually recommend guys try and shoot for that 10 to 15%. Yeah. If you have some abs, you don't necessarily need to have a raging 6-pack. Yeah. But having some glimmer of abs and the V taper is what gets it. But you don't need to be like totally shredded.
Yeah. Same thing with the Royal Society thing, that the upper body muscle counted more than thinness. So like a guy could be a little heavier, but if he was extremely heavy and had a lot of upper body muscle, that actually counted against him, like you said before. So it's really interesting when you read some of the data on this. I'm curious, what is your thought on HRT and peptides for guys?
Yeah, so I mainly promote natural bodybuilding. Sure. I think that's something that guys really need to focus on. From the HRT perspective, I don't have a problem with it. Yeah. I think that, I mean, it is a medical condition to have hypogonadism. Yes. If your levels are low, then I think it's totally fine to be taking that to supplement yourself. I think with peptides, I don't think there's enough research for me to really get behind it at this point. I think having a balanced diet, getting in whole protein sources is going to cover you for the most part from that perspective. And I think that other than creatine, there aren't many supplements that are actually going to be helpful for a natural bodybuilder besides going into the full-on PEDs route. Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting you mentioned that. So the hypogonadism and people kind of dealing with that. One of the crazy stats I looked up, so 10 years ago, 2015, there were 2.3 million men on HRT going to different clinics, getting legal prescriptions. Now it's almost 13 million. in like 10 years, it's gotten that much. And when you think of the male population between the ages of like, say, 35 and 60, that's like 5-6% of the entire population that's doing that. So that's pretty different. Like it seems to have grown pretty drastically. The peptides is interesting. Like there's still a lot of research that needs to be done on it. Some of them I've seen are like devastatingly effective, like extremely effective. I've tried BPC 157 one time for an injury, and it definitely worked. So it's kind of one of these weird things where there definitely needs to be a lot more research. Intermittent fasting. Do you think that there's any credence behind that?
I think it's mainly getting towards the total calorie intake. That's the most important thing. It's the total calorie balance across the day and across the week.
Yeah.
Intermittent fasting does work for a lot of people because it restricts their eating window. And if you're only eating for 6 to 8 hours a day, you're just going to eat less. Like if you don't have the option to go to McDonald's at 11 p.m., that's just -1 meal, and people will end up eating less calories. So I recommend that people go for the strategy that helps them reduce calories overall. From a pure bodybuilding perspective, I am against it because I think that you're going to be better off at a very high level having a spread of protein intake throughout the day.
Yeah, I will agree with you. Like the main thing for me was, number one, the insulin spike that would happen after breakfast. I don't have that anymore, so I don't eat breakfast anymore. And then afterwards, like right now, I won't eat today till like 4 or 5 p.m. And the alertness that I do feel, even though I feel a little hungry, the alertness that I feel without the spikes. Do you understand? That was the main thing that I liked about the intermittent fasting. And then the second thing, like you said, now I'm eating 2 meals instead of 3, so I can actually enjoy my 2,200, 2,500 calories way easier if I'm trying to lose weight than if it's 3 meals and I have to eat these small portions. So that's another thing I thought was really helpful with that. Cold plunge.
Cold plunge. I'm 50-50 on this.
Yeah.
I think for some people it's going to be a great thing.
Yeah.
You get that feeling of being alert and more productive.
It's such a mood changer.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those things that if you like it, go ahead. Like I'm not against it. I'm not totally for it either.
Yeah. The Andrew Huberman talked about the conversion from white fats to brown fats when you do the cold plunge. And the thing for me is, because I'm almost 48 years old and I have a lot of like swelling, like we get inflammation, I'll do that and all of it goes away. If I've had an allergic reaction and I get in the cold plunge, all of the inflammation goes away. And this is the best one. If I go have a big meal and I have that bloated feeling, I do the cold plunge and the bloated feeling just vanishes. It's wild. So I'll do it. And the other thing is, if I'm really trying to avoid caffeine, instead of a cup of coffee, I'll jump in there, and it definitely changes it. So yeah, there's a lot of different uses I've seen for it.
Yeah, one thing I would actually bring up that is a big thing from natural bodybuilding that guys don't realize is how much potential you have as an older guy. So in natural bodybuilding, guys actually peak as natural bodybuilders in their mid-40s.
Yes.
It's a very late peaking sport. And guys don't realize that you can be at your best physique in your late 40s.
Is it because your metabolism slowed down so you can maintain the muscle mass?
So what happens is, as you get older, it does get harder to build muscle. You're going to be in your best position to build muscle in your 20s and 30s. What happens later in life, though, is that guys just get more experienced. So their total muscle mass might not actually be going up a lot, but they're getting better at managing their habits and getting with the body fat loss. So in their bodybuilding preps, they're able to get leaner while maintaining the muscle better. But the overall package is actually improving. So there's a friend of mine who I've had on my podcast, Jeff Alberts. He's one of the best natural bodybuilders in the world. He placed 5th at World Natural Bodybuilding Championships at age 52. Like he was in the best physique of his life and in the top 5 in the world against all comers, all ages, right? So I think there's a lot of potential out there that guys are leaving on the table. People think that as soon as you're over 30, it's over. Like you're on your way out, but that's totally not the case.
Could it also have to do with like the density of joints? Do you understand when they talk about old man strength? If you've watched the World's Strongest Man competitions, and yes, I know some of those guys are probably taking steroids, but those guys, several of them were in their 40s. Like a lot of the World's Strongest Men are like late 30s, early 40s.
I think a lot of that just comes from the fact that strength takes a long time to develop.
Yes.
And bodybuilding is a slow sport because muscle growth is such a slow process. Like it takes years to really build that muscle.
Yeah.
And humans are just like adapted in a way where we don't like reach our ultimate, total physique until later. Like it just takes time to build that muscle. takes time to build that strength. A lot of the strength comes from neural adaptations, and that's a skill. So that has to be developed over time, over years.
What do you think, because you've discussed evolutionary psychology, what is the evolutionary reason you think for hypertrophy, muscular hypertrophy, and also why does progressive overload work so well? Like there must have been something evolutionarily that made it fit for us. What do you think that is?
Well, ultimately, it's the mechanism that allows us to adapt to our environment and adapt to our needs. So if you think about the caveman, he had to pick up a javelin and throw it at some gazelle. And the guy who was able to throw it harder and throw it better was able to eat that night.
Yeah.
And you repeat that over millennia, and the guys who are able to build muscle and adapt ended up replicating more.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see, like if you look at other mammals, their physique difference isn't that different. Like most male bull elephants look kind of the same. They kind of have the same build, right? Same thing with gorillas. They tend to look pretty similar. But with Homo sapiens, you just see there's some men that are like no muscle mass whatsoever. I have some clients that are Indian vegetarian and they have string arms, tiny arms. And then I have some clients that have huge arms, and it really does, like you said before, it's an adaptation for whatever your environment is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For carrying them around all that weight. Sauna and steam room. What do you think about that? A lot of people talk about the heat shock proteins and things like that.
I think it's overrated.
Yeah?
Yeah. I personally don't put too much stock in that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I think if you have that extra time, you're better off actually getting a few
Sure.
extra sets in the gym or lining up your diet.
I will say one thing that has been advantageous is I can do deeper stretches than at any point during the day when I'm in the steam room. Like I can almost do the splits when I'm in there because the vascular dilation, that's one of the advantages I've seen. But yeah, I've also seen mixed reviews as far as how much it really helps.
One thing I will say is that lifting and actually going through a full range of motion is actually one of the best things you can do for your own flexibility in your range of motion.
For your flexibility,
yeah. Like deep squats will open up your hips and in a way that nothing else can. I think that it's a great way to kill two birds with one stone.
This recent massive fascination with red light therapy. What do you think about that?
I'm not that big into it. Yeah, I think a lot of these things I think the benefit is not really going to be worth it at this point, at least given the research that we have.
Yeah. And then the other thing is the concept of getting sunlight every day.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's huge. I think that, especially in the way that it affects your circadian rhythm, you want to try and get sunlight early in the morning. It basically tells your body that this is the morning time, and we're going to get ready for the day, and it'll help you sleep at night, because when it comes time for night, your body's like, oh, we've had a full day, we've gotten our stuff done, it's time to go to sleep. So I think that it is big.
Andrew Huberman did a whole one on hydration, and he was talking about the concept of like 8 ounces per hour, and then it was, I want to say, depending on your body mass, a certain number of ounces per hour whenever you worked out, but it came out to about 128 ounces, which is a gallon. What do you think as far as hydration is concerned? Is a gallon too much, too little?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the person and the environment you're in, and like how much you need. I think drink enough so that your pee comes out almost clear.
Yeah.
Is going to be enough.
Shout out to the U.S. military. They literally had a little thing when I was in the military on the thing, and it showed different colors of pee. And it's like, does your pee look like this?
Yeah,
it was so crazy, bro. We had to tie knots in our canteen for every time we took a drink. It was wild.
Yeah. I mean, I think that works really well.
Yeah.
You don't need anything fancy. I don't think that you necessarily need to be like aiming for a certain number. Like I want to hit a gallon necessarily.
Caffeine use.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of ways that I see people using caffeine that I don't really agree with. I think that it can be helpful actually from a bodybuilding perspective in terms of helping your performance. I think in terms of research, that is something that has been studied and has been shown to improve your gym performance. But I don't like the idea of people becoming dependent on something. So I actually don't use caffeine on a regular basis. I don't like the idea of becoming tolerant to something and having to always need it just to get back to baseline. But I do think that it is a useful tool, and I will use it on days when I need it. So let's say I worked a 24-hour shift on call, and then the next day I've got to hit a gym workout or have an important meeting or something. Then I will use caffeine selectively to help my performance. The other thing that I don't see people talking about is that it's really helpful to use in fat loss phases. So if you're running a cut, I will then bring in caffeine in order to help me with my diet. One of the big problems people face on diets is that they feel lethargic. You're low energy when you're eating low calories. You have trouble getting through your day, trouble going to work, trouble socializing with friends, going out on a date, whatever. And if you haven't been using caffeine the rest of the year, now you can bring it in and your body's going to be sensitive to it. So for example, I just ran like just a really short 2-week mini cut. I lost about 5 pounds of fat and I brought in caffeine during that time. And I felt great during it. Like it really helped me. You can caffeine cycle is the way I use it. So you bring it in at a smaller amount, like maybe like 100 milligrams or something. And then after a couple of weeks, when you feel like you're not getting the same effect, you bump up the dose to maybe like 150 or 200 milligrams.
Got it.
For another few weeks.
For the day, 150 for the day.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. One thing that's helped me with when I do want to lose weight is the sparkling water. Like I do feel a little bit full afterwards, and the other one was hot sauce. That is another thing. Like eating a small meal, but I put that scorpion sauce, that Tabasco scorpion sauce. I just feel satiated. So that's another thing that's helped me with the intermittent fasting and eating less.
Yeah, the carbonated beverages, it fills up your stomach.
Yeah.
And then if you want to have something like a diet soda or something, you'll also satisfy that sweet craving.
Yeah.
So I use that a lot in contest prep. Chewing gum is also useful.
Chewing gum. I haven't thought about that. That's a great one. That's a really great idea. Is there a place for I'm sure you look up some peer-reviewed research when it comes to hypertrophy and some of these different things. Is there a place you source research?
I think the best place to go is to find the people who are actually doing the research and follow them.
Got it.
So for example, I just had Brad Schoenfeld on my podcast.
Okay.
He's like the king of hypertrophy science. And I'm privileged because I can just ask him directly on the show, like, tell me about these studies.
Yeah.
And hear it right from the source. But
Nice.
I think following evidence-based podcasts where they interview the right people is a great place to go. I think that natural bodybuilding science is the best source of information if you want to improve your physique, because these are the guys who are actually doing the science on the variables that you want to change.
Have you tried using AI for research?
I will use it occasionally in a more casual way. I think that you have to double check the sources.
Yeah, so
I think that's ultimately
one thing I've done is I'll take the same query and I'll put it in Grok, ChatGPT, I'll put it in Gemini, Perplexity, and not Poe. I'm trying to think what the other one is. Oh, DeepSeek. I'll put it all in there and then I'll use the deep research function. It usually takes like 20 minutes for all of them to get through. Like ChatGPT is actually the slowest. Grok is the fastest. And I'll go through them all and then I'll compare what they all say or put them all in one document and then have ChatGPT summarize the document, because I'm trying to, what I'll ask is there any possibility this isn't true? And I'll ask the AI model to be as skeptical as possible to try to find data that red light therapy isn't true. You know what I'm saying? Hypergamy isn't true. Stuff like that. And that's been a really effective thing I've done. And then also check the sources, like you said before. But it's just unbelievable how much research you can get done in like a few minutes.
Oh, yeah. I think just using it as an assistant,
Yeah.
right? And not necessarily basing everything that you're going to think off of it, but using it to help you compile sources or just give you overviews.
Incredible, yeah.
Powerful.
There were a couple of studies that I remembered the results of the study, but I didn't remember who did it. And I asked last night, and it knew exactly what I was talking about. Royal Society, one from Oklahoma State, where they went over. This is a really interesting one because I do want to get into this concept of your dating views. This is a really interesting 2 studies that I've read recently. One was 2015, a woman named Lucy Hill. She does a study with some other researchers, and they basically look at the time when a couple met to when they started dating. And they started correlating that with the physical attractiveness of the 2 members of the couple. So they had a bunch of researchers that would rate the physical attractiveness on a 7-point scale from +3 to -3. And then they would correlate that to how attractive their partner was. And then they would look at how long they'd known each other before. And basically the results of the study were, if you are an attractive man, that's your best chance of dating an attractive woman when you first meet her. At 4.5 months, that correlation got cut in half. At 9 months, the correlation was 0, meaning the guy who was a 5 was dating a girl who was a 10 because he put her in the friend zone for like 9 months. That was one incredible study. And the other one that I thought was interesting, because you talked about social proof before we started this, was another study that showed that, and I believe this was Oklahoma State that did this in 2009. They took 150 women and they asked them the attractiveness of a certain man, and then they showed the same man and told the women that the man was taken and had a wedding ring on, and his attractiveness level went from 59% to 90%. 90% of the women thought he was attractive when they knew he was taken. It was a crazy study. They did the same study in 2012 with men, and when men saw that the woman was taken, she was less attractive. So it's a really interesting thing when it comes to the concept of mate choice copying. I'm curious if you, from your study on dating, and I know you've done a lot of social circle stuff as well, what are some of the myths and what are some of the discoveries that you've had?
Yeah, so we learned a lot going out and doing street interviews last year.
Yeah.
We went out into the streets of Vancouver, just interviewing a bunch of girls, asking them what they liked about guys, how guys can be better, just giving them a platform to speak. We ended up getting collaboration with a club in our city, and we would have a table and bottle and have all our girls from the interviews come out and just have a good time together. And we learned a lot about what girls said and then what they actually did. And I think that it was a very interesting setup because I would interview the girls, ask them about their views on dating, ask them about their relationships and if they had a boyfriend or whatever, and then see what they actually did in the club 3 hours later.
Yeah.
And we saw some very interesting things. I think that the biggest takeaway is that you have to trust what girls do, not what they say.
Yeah.
Often on the interviews, they will say things that will make them look good or that they think would be accepted by society or whatever.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, you'd see them doing something totally different.
Yeah. With business partners, and I think with women, the best way to learn about them is to stop listening to them. Just totally pay attention. It doesn't mean that they're lying to you. It just means that if you just look at their actions, it's over. It's the girl who tells you she just wants to date a nice guy and her last 3 boyfriends were narcissists. It's like, but they can't see that they're part of the issue, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So we saw a lot of infidelity happening.
Yes.
Because girls would literally talk about their boyfriends on the interview. And then afterwards, you see them leaving with some guy from the club or making it with some guy. There's this one time my friend Brad was talking to this girl that we'd interviewed, and she had told me that she had a boyfriend on the interview. And then afterwards, he ended up hooking up with her in a bathroom. And the crazy part was that her boyfriend was actually a bouncer at that club.
That's wild. Yeah, that's crazy. It doesn't seem unusual. So, I've done like hundreds of red carpet interviews. If you go on my YouTube channel, there's like 500 of them up there. And frequently I would have a girl after the interview is over say just the most vile sexual stuff. And her boyfriend is like 6 feet away. And I'm like looking at the dude and looking at her, and she's like, I want to go you in the bathroom. And I'm like, yo, what? Your man is right. And it was like a kink. They got off on it. It's one of the wildest things I've ever seen. Of course, I never partake in any of that. That was not, I'm a man of God. I would never do that, but that's what I've experienced.
Yeah. There was this one time I was out in Vegas, actually, we were doing interviews.
Okay.
And we interviewed this mother-daughter duo. And we were showing them physiques. And the mom starts hitting on my friend Brad.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God, you have such a perfect body. You're gorgeous. Putting her hands all over him. And a couple minutes later, the dad comes by, says hi to her, and she's totally sweet and loving with him. And then she's like, oh, we'll catch up with you guys later. He walks away, and then she resumes hitting on my friend. And this is in front of her daughter, which was crazy.
I'm gonna propose an idea here. Just tell me what you think about this. There's a lot of unflattering information when it comes to men and infidelity, and there's some unflattering information when it comes to females and infidelity. But because this is my theory here, because 85% of consumer spending is female, it's hard to advertise on an evolutionary psychology podcast tampons and makeup when they're calling women out for cheating. Does that make sense? And because content like that is ratioed, it's harder for men to understand the truth about the situation.
Yes, absolutely. I would say that, first of all, not a knock on anyone gender at all. I think guys cheat a lot.
Right, but you and I don't have the privilege of being offended when we get rejected. That's the difference. You and I don't have the privilege of being, if someone said, hey man, you have a natural bodybuilder physique, therefore this data shows that you're more likely to be a narcissist and more likely to cheat in a relationship. You may agree or disagree, but you're not offended. You know what I'm saying? You're not reporting the content. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's sensitive.
Yeah.
I think that one thing that we saw a lot is that women definitely being out at night and interviewing and seeing the behavior afterwards definitely highlighted the side of the short-term mating goals that women do pursue sometimes under the cover of darkness or when they're not being judged by their friends or whatever, that you don't necessarily hear talked about a lot. Guys feel or they're told that you got to be a nice guy. You got to pay for all of her things, buy her flowers all the time. That's going to get you the girl that you want.
But that content doesn't get ratioed. That content goes viral on TikTok.
Exactly.
Right? But what you're saying, if you showed videos of women talking to you and then cheating on their boyfriends, you are off TikTok in 24 hours. Yeah. So that, like what you said before, I just feel like there's a certain, again, I don't think it's this nefarious, like gynocentric feminist conspiracy. I really do think it's advertisers. I think it's easier for TikTok to sell stuff to women. And because of that, if you hold women accountable, they ratio your content.
Yeah. It's just difficult to see those things. I think it's one of those things that as a guy, you need to see it firsthand to believe it. They call it the secret society. Like when a guy actually understands that side of female nature, that like, yes, if a girl has the opportunity and she sees the hot guy at the club who like has the great physique or whatever, and her boyfriend is boring, not that in great shape, but makes a lot of money, she's going to be tempted to go for that. Yeah.
And you said physique, that 2017 study, like I said before, height, I forgot to mention height. Physique mounted more than height. Height was like an extra 9%. But physique was 70 to 73% of women. So these women are looking at shirtless men. And they're like, what is it that you find attractive about them? And it was upper body muscle was the vast majority of it. So you bring up physique because I know height is a big topic in this space. It's like, oh, I'm not tall, therefore I won't get the girl. And being taller definitely is an advantage. But there are so many ways to overcome that.
Yeah, guys don't realize how much opportunity they have. And I actually think that physique actually plays a big role in attraction that sometimes gets underrated in the dating world. And sometimes you don't actually see that effect until you're actually in the situation. But one thing that fitness does is it changes the quality of the attraction. Like I would say that the attraction that comes from physicality or sexual attraction is the purest form of attraction. And if you are doing well in that department, the quality of the relationships you get is going to be better.
As opposed to like leading with money.
Exactly.
Yeah, got it. The other thing you said before, I made the statement one time and it pissed a lot of people off. I was like, you don't truly understand women until you've had a girl go on a date with another man. He pays a bunch of money for her dinner, and then she takes the leftovers, brings it over to your place to have sex with you while you're playing video games. Until that happens to you, you don't truly understand women.
So here's a story about my friend Brad.
Yeah.
He has a great physique, and he was walking at the beach, and he sees a girl who has this picnic spread with a bunch of food on it. He goes over to her, starts chatting her up, and she's really friendly to him. She's like flirting back with him, and eventually she's like, oh, do you want to take my number? And he's like, sure. And at that point he finds out that she's actually on a date. And she has all her food out. She's sharing her food with him. And then eventually like the guy who's on the date comes back, gets really pissed. But it's like, people don't realize that there is that side that things that will actually happen if you become that attractive guy.
Yeah.
And if you never experienced that in your life as a man, you will never know that it's possible.
For sure. I have another saying, if women are constantly asking you for money, it's because your arms aren't big enough.
That's a good one.
Yeah. If you see guys who are in shape, you go to some of the casinos around here at night, and there's walking escorts that'll be around, and they'll take one look at a guy who's in shape, just run the other way like he's kryptonite, because they're like, oh, this guy's not going to pay for sex. Clearly, I can look at him and see that is I can see that this is a high testosterone, probably successful male who has put work in the gym. This is not the type of guy who's going to pay for sex, and they run the other way. That's something else. Also, if you are really good, like if you're in really good shape, you'll notice strippers don't come up to you at the strip club as often either. They're looking for the guy who's fumbling on his phone, overweight, suit jacket barely fits, gray hair, irrelevant haircut. That they are going right for that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are there any myths that you believe? You talk about the nice guy. Are there any specific myths that you've seen before?
Yeah, I think guys don't understand what genuine attraction is. I think that's a big pitfall that guys make, is that they think the girl is into them. Maybe the girl says that she's attracted to him, but she actually isn't really. And guys don't understand what genuine burning desire looks like. You need to feel that. You need to have those relationships to actually understand it.
I think that's where a lot of the troll comments on YouTube come from. It's guys who've never experienced genuine desire, so they think every woman is just a couple grand away from being a whore. Like, they truly think every woman is only transactional. And the other one that I've seen is with my content specifically, I've never paid a single girl to hang out with me ever once in my life. They're all tagged. I told guys, I'll give you 50 grand if you can find one girl I've ever paid. And from the hater's perspective online, because he's never gotten genuine desire, he can't understand that many attractive women. You've shown me some pictures of you in Vancouver, that many attractive women hanging out with a guy who didn't pay them. Does that make sense? It's trying to, like, privilege is invisible to those who have it, but it's also a situation where it's like, if you've never experienced genuine desire as a man, you don't even know it exists. So what you're doing is foreign to them. So the response is, you must be paying them, these women are prostitutes.
Exactly. Yeah. So this time we were out in the club with my friend Brad, and we were surrounded by like 12 girls. And there was this one girl who was literally like Brad's crush from the gym. Like, perfect body, blonde, like had it all. And they were just together. They had only exchanged hellos at that point, but they were all having a good time. Brad was like not even interested in the girls because he had other things to do. He was on his phone, like contacting other people and stuff. And out of nowhere, she just comes up to him and says, "Can I kiss you?" Maybe it's the alcohol, but I just want to kiss you. And like up to that point, if you hadn't seen that or experienced that, you would never know that it was possible. And you might feel that you would have had to court that girl for months in order to get that kind of experience or that kind of treatment. But it doesn't work that way, and guys don't realize that dating is one of those things that your return on investment is actually inverse to how much effort you put in.
Yes.
It is counterintuitive because in almost every other endeavor in life, even in the gym, in business, the more effort you put in, the more results you get.
Yeah.
But with women, it actually backfires.
Did you know paying for those roses and super likes on dating apps, your match rate gets cut in half? So they're paying more money because, like what you said before, it's like, who is this dude who paid money to send me this rose?
Makes sense.
Instead of what's being fed to these men, which is if you show more effort, then they'll be attracted to you, which is not the case. It's like an inverse relation, like you said before. The other thing is Alan Roger Curry. He's an author who passed away. He had this book. In it, he talked about the concept of a woman who's a time waster. You mentioned before, a woman may be complimenting you, but she may not actually be interested in you. How can you tell the difference between when a woman is just giving you attention versus when she's attracted?
That's a good question. I think that it reminds me of this story of one of my friends. She was dating this guy, and he was her boyfriend for a couple of years, but they actually dated for 6 months until they had sex. And then the year later, after they had broken up, she goes on a date with some other guy and sleeps with him on the first date.
Yes.
Like, girls can behave very differently depending on which guy they're with. And you have to understand which box you're being put into. And you have to be able to detect that soon, because I think one of the biggest problems guys face in dating is just wasting time with the wrong girls or investing time, energy, and attention into the wrong girls.
What are the things that make a guy the 6-month wait guy versus sleep on the first date guy?
Yeah. So I really like the balance, looking at the balance of attraction and comfort. I think those are two really good concepts for people to understand. Attraction is all those hot guy traits. So like tall, good looking, good body, wanted by a lot of girls, like in a position of power. And then comfort is all the like more nice guy traits. So like sleeping over the night, spending a lot of time together, buying gifts, spending a lot of money.
Cats. Lots of cats. Yeah.
Those are killer.
Yeah, cats are amazing.
But basically, you need to think about those two qualities, and you ultimately want to lead with attraction. You need both. And I like to think of it as two glasses. You're filling those two glasses, and you want to fill them at similar rates, but you always want to be leading with the attraction glass.
Yeah.
That's something that a lot of guys get wrong because we're inundated by media that tells us that we need to lead with comfort. You need to make the girl feel comfortable and safe and good with you by buying all these things.
Because they assume attraction. When a woman says, I want a man to buy me flowers, he means I want a man I'm attracted to buy me flowers, right? But the concept of generating attraction, women are not going to tell you that exists or how to do that. The ACS model, which is attraction, comfort, seduction, Mystery created that 2003, somewhere around that area he did. And he just did my show like 2 weeks ago. And he goes over that concept. And it's really interesting because he taught me this back in 2007. Attraction without any comfort, you become this unattainable boy that where you're destroying comfort with the girl. And there still are girls that will go home with you, right? There still are girls that will go home with the male stripper the first night. They don't need any comfort whatsoever. It's just all raw attraction. It just depends kind of where a girl is in her life cycle. The second one was all comfort with no attraction, put you in the friend zone, right? Or made you like the gay best friend. And so what you said, what I think is most important is attraction and comfort are both important, but attraction has to come first.
Yeah, absolutely. Like things like saying I love you, the girl has to do that first.
Yes.
Buying gifts, you should let her do it first. Like girls want to be with the man that she chose and she feels like that she captured.
Yeah.
Not the guy who is chasing her.
Really important thing, I think, is the what are we talk. It has to be her who has that.
Yeah, that's big. It sets the tone of the relationship. It sets the frame of the relationship.
Yeah.
A lot of those things need to be established early on. And the first few months of dating sets the precedent for the rest of your relationship.
You did a video with Mike. I can't say his last name. Is Israel? And then Orion Taraban, where you went over a lot of these concepts. Orion's a good buddy of mine. You went over a lot of these concepts. What did you learn from talking about them? Or were there any other people you interviewed when you went over the concept of dating and relationships?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting talking about the different qualities that make up a man's value. You'll talk about looks, money, status, and game. I like to broaden it out a little bit to say looks and fitness, money and your career, status and your connections, and then your game/personality. But I think that talking about the balance of those factors is really important. I think at a high level, status ultimately wins. But I think that, money is vastly overrated.
Yes.
Once
Agreed.
you get above a certain threshold, like a minimum threshold, money doesn't really make that much of a difference.
Yeah.
And guys spend a lot of time disproportionately in their lives trying to accumulate just money and ignoring those other baskets.
Yeah.
You need to be leveling up all of those qualities simultaneously.
Yeah, there's a threshold where it's impressive, and there's a threshold where it's clear to her that you can't generate attraction, so you're trying to use money as a crutch. And so I think that's where it gets dangerous. Using money as a funnel is the best thing I've ever seen. Meaning, like, I use money to create a reality that she can come into and feel comfortable, but I don't give her money. That's where I think the guys get like really lost on that whole idea. So I think that's important. When Mystery was on here, and I actually believe this, he said 80% of attraction is pre-selection. So the idea that other women find a man attractive, causing more women to find him attractive.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that women want to be with the guy that other girls want and other guys respect.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you can't be afraid of having that. I think guys are worried that if other girls are chasing after me, then it's going to scare away like the good girl or the girl that I want. But all girls have the same wiring. I think that ultimately the way you approach dating a girl that you would want to have a long-term relationship with is actually very similar to the girl that you would have something more short-term with. Maybe you might slow a couple of things down, but the principles are the same.
The Royal Society and Southwest University did a study with men in photographs. They take the picture of the man by himself and then a picture of the man with women who looked happy to be around. Nothing sexual, nothing lascivious. And the men were reported to be significantly more, like almost like a full standard deviation, more attractive when they were pictured with women. You've said you've done some nightlife stuff. I don't know if you posted any of those photos on Instagram. Did you notice anything when you would do that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's counterintuitive because you'd think that they would get scared away by it. But I remember we'd be out in the club. We would have maybe 10, 12 girls at a table. And the more girls you had around you, the more girls would want to join. Like the girls that you hadn't even met would now come over, start talking. And it's a weird trip for guys the first time it happens, but like you realize that girls will snowball their attention, right? Like you want to go to the restaurant that is busy and has a line. You don't want to go to the one that's empty.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because often women won't admit that they're subject to that emotion. They won't admit that they're attracted to the guy other women want. And they'll say things like, usually it's, I want a guy who's a homebody, a nerd, and has a dad bod. And then you look at their exes and it's like, none of that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The dad bod thing is funny. We definitely ask girls that, and sometimes they would say that they wanted a dad bod, but it's total BS.
Thank you. The dad bod myth, complete nonsense. Because evolutionarily, it doesn't make any sense. There's a couple theories I've heard on this. This was, again, Mac and Murphy was talking about this. When men, so you pair bond with a woman who gets pregnant, those men also gain weight. They're excessive prolactin, they get bigger. And that's a sign evolutionarily of the man who's going to stay with you. So women see the Seth Rogen getting fat or the Elon Musk getting fat. They find that attractive because in their mind, they're imagining the guy who impregnated them sticking around. And so that's why they say that it's more attractive. But one of my favorite videos I ever saw was they showed the dad bod and they showed the ripped guy. And they say, which one of these guys do you find more attractive? And the women kept saying the dad bod. And then they asked a second question, which do you think your friends would find more attractive? And all of them said the muscular guy. So all of your friends would find him attractive, but you wouldn't. And then there was another one where they said, which do you think would be a better partner, the dad bod or the muscular guy? And then they said, if you were going to have a one-night stand, which one would you have sex with? And all of them said the muscular guy. So it's like you have to understand the part that they're not, saying out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that guys never experience that feeling of being that like one-night stand guy or the guy who is pursued for that. And guys don't realize that girls say that they want the dad bod because they feel that's more attainable. But if they had the hot guy who also gave them that comfort or made them feel safe, then they would absolutely choose that. It's just very few girls are able to actually lock down that guy and keep him.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
The things you're describing are sort of attributes of hypergamy. I had Casey Zander on here, and he likes to say the term hypergamy is satisfied. So she has to believe you have a higher sexual market value than she does. And therefore, if she does, then like you said, she chose you. And so hypergamy is satisfied. Therefore, you can feel attraction. But yet I have, I'll have 8 girls on here every other week. And we go over these concepts, and there just seems to be this denial from mainstream society. They see hypergamy as like a dirty word. Where do you think that comes from?
Yeah, I think people don't want to have some of these uncomfortable truths aired. I think it dispels the mystery behind all of it, and some of these things portray people in a bad light, and they don't want that. Ultimately, it is giving guys an advantage, right? Like sharing sharing the kind of information that you do on your channel is so helpful for men. Like I think that it's actually one of the biggest things that guys can do is to improve their dating skills. Yeah. But ultimately that runs opposite to some of the agendas of women. So it makes sense for them not to promote it.
Yeah, you said before, like gives them an advantage. I agree. And I can see how that would be, offensive or difficult to some people. But like you said before, men often, as they get older, tend to still like women in their 20s and 30s. Meaning when they're 50, they still like women in their 20s and 30s. Men report this. This is kind of an uncomfortable truth for men, but the difference is we aren't offended. You understand what I'm saying? Like there's uncomfortable truths about men and women. The difference is men aren't offended. If I went to Hugh Hefner or Dan Bilzerian and I say, hey, there's this data that shows that if a man has more sexual partners before he's married, he's more likely to cheat on his wife. What do you think they'd say to me? They'd be like, yeah, that sounds right. Sounds about right. They wouldn't be like, that guy, ban that study. No, who hurt you? Like they wouldn't say that. They would just be like, yeah, it sounds about right. But that same data is a GSS survey that offends so many women when I bring it up, which shows that women who cheated in a relationship had 230% more sexual partners before the marriage than women who didn't cheat. They're like, what? No, like now I have data that clearly spells out you can't turn a hood to a housewife. And now like it's so massively offensive, but it's data. Right? It's dispassionate data, and they just still get so offended by it. Yeah. The horrible advice of just be yourself.
Oh, man. Yeah, I hate this one. I think that guys want to have a cope to stay with what's comfortable, and they don't want to put in the work of having to transform themselves. But ultimately, it's like, what defines you? Like me, when I started bodybuilding when I was like 17 and I was skinny, I mean, that was me at the time. But this now, after I've been training and become pro physique athlete, this is also me. So I think that you're always going to be you, but you can curate your reality and you can become who you want to become.
Yeah.
And people just want to have what's comfortable and they don't want to put in the work. But ultimately, girls don't want to have the mediocre guy. They want to have the Superman. They want to feel like they got the king, like the guy at the top.
And then complain about him. and then have all their friends complain about him.
Yeah.
And then their friends want to sleep with him. Yeah, no, I've definitely seen that.
I'm curious to hear from your dating background, how would you recommend guys actually angle towards like something long term? Because I think that's something that a lot of people in this space get wrong because they feel like it's all about chasing like a one night stand or hooking up. But a lot of these skills will actually transfer over into more long term dating scenarios as well.
Yeah. I recommend that guys get massive social circles. Just spend time building your social circle. So high status guys who motivate you, some high status women who are like business owners, stuff like that. But mainly I friend zoned hundreds and hundreds of beautiful women and get them to come to events with me or throw events. Now in those scenarios, because the ratio is so tilted in my favor, I start seeing girls competing for my attention. And then you see the mate choice copying effect, or what we call pre-selection, in those arenas. And then I see women like who normally wouldn't be attracted to me all of a sudden become curious. And now I have more time in the pocket, an American football reference. I have more time in the pocket to look for the open receiver. So I can see which one of these girls chooses me or which one of these girls is giving me the most compliance. And then this is the main thing I look for. So the big debate, there was no talk of this during the pickup days, but now it's massive during the red pill days, is the concept of a body count with women. And the reality is you're never going to know what her body count is. She could be lying to you. You're just never going to know. What I look for, as opposed to her physical attractiveness and opposed to trying to figure out what her body count is what is the level of stimulus she requires. If her level of stimulus that she requires is consistently drinking with her friends without you, that is too high. And if you're a guy and you've been on the other end of that, you know you've been out 100 times and bumped into a girl who had a boyfriend who was drinking a little bit and she was ready to go have sex with you in a unisex bathroom. She was ready to go home with you. If you've experienced that more than 10 or 20 times, you know that your girlfriend going out and drinking without you on a regular basis is a massive red flag. Your girl needed to go on trips consistently, keeping close relationships with her exes. What are these things? Is it that she wants to cheat? I don't think consciously, but subconsciously she requires this level of validation. And when you find a woman who gets her validation from you and the dog and the Netflix show that you guys watch, or maybe you go to the gym together, or maybe she has a fulfilling job, but the fulfillment that she needs in her life as far as stimulus comes from you and your relationship, meaning you, the male partner, and your relationship. When you find a girl like that, that is who I would choose for a long-term partner. And additionally, this is a big one. You do physique competitions. I can see a girl dating you maybe gets jealous from the attention that you get from other women. If the girl you're with steps in any way on the empire you're trying to build, she has to go. No matter how much you love her, she's got to go. If, like, for instance, for me, because I teach a lot of dating stuff, I've had girls that I've dated, incredible women. They're not cool with it. And I'm like, you don't understand. You had no problem with my job when I took you to Cancun. But now you have a problem with my job because you see that it works and that other women find me attractive. If she's getting in the way of the empire, she has to go. That's a really difficult one for a lot of guys to deal with. They're doing their job and sort of tolerating her complaining. If she's rude to your clients, she's rude to your employees, she's rude to your coworkers, she's rude to your friends because she doesn't like what they represent, she has to go. Because you as a man have to focus on yourself first. And when you do so, one of the crazy things happens. Again, with the social circle and also maintaining your boundaries, you'll take a girl who normally would not be ready to be in a relationship, but because she's seen this level of masculinity from you, now she's ready. Again, the girl who made the first guy wait 6 months and she probably tells all her friends, I only make guys wait 6 months, and then sleeps with the other guy on the first date. That's the same thing. It's like she's not ready. It was Eva Mendes talking about, I can't remember who the guy she was with, but she's like, I don't want to have kids. And then later on when she has kids, she goes, yeah, but I wanted to have his kids. So if you can present that avatar of superior masculinity that really makes her feel comfortable, then in that case, then all of a sudden you'll take a girl who normally would not be a good relationship partner, and she's like, she will submit to the relationship. I'm not big into the whole red pill, your wife needs to submit to you, all this type of shit. But I do think a man needs to lead in the relationship, and I think a woman needs to be more into him than she is into her, like 51-49, because she has this leverage point of social media and attention from, like, say, dating apps. No matter how famous you and I get, the girls we date will get 100 times more offers for sexual encounters than we will. And so because of that, we can't be chasing her and she gets more attention on social media. You can't have both of those things. That's a recipe for disaster. That's the inmates running the asylum. So that's what I would, the main characteristic I look for, not physical attractiveness, okay? You're never gonna know body count. The main thing I look for is how much stimulus does she need to feel validated? That's the number one thing.
That's great. Yeah. It reminds me of a book I read recently, The Science of Happily Ever After by Tai Tashiro.
Okay.
And he talks about how high novelty seeking is a trait that's associated with infidelity.
Yes.
I think it totally makes sense. I mean, if you always want something novel, if you always are chasing that experience, the highs of those new things, you're probably going to be more bored in a long-term relationship. And it's one of those things that you can look out for, but guys don't understand that they need to look out for it.
Yeah.
The other thing, what you were saying about having the girl who may not be ready to be in a relationship, I think is also huge, because that's actually better when you get the girl who wasn't looking for a relationship, but you changed her mind.
Yeah.
And she like realized like, wow, like I have to change myself to be with this guy.
Yeah.
Because that signals more investment. When you have the girl who is just looking for something long-term and just like really wants to just like settle down now, have kids with someone, just happens to be you.
Just pick the first one.
You just came down the block and you were like ready and willing. Those are the relationships that will ultimately disintegrate later on because she's not happy in it.
Yeah, the last thing, I met my ex-girlfriend at Swimsuit USA's World Championship, so it's her and 75 other girls. The last thing I was looking for was a relationship. But I met her, and it was just like almost getting hit over the head, like, yes, I want this one. So I agree with you totally on that. And then it's really, you're shopping from a place of weakness when you've already decided you need to be in a relationship. I see a lot of guys get pressured by their family. They go home for Thanksgiving, they go home for Christmas, and the fat aunt and mom and dad and the grandparents are like, when are you going to get us kids? It's time for you to settle down. They're putting pressure on the guy, and now the guy feels like, okay, now I have to get married to this girl to make my family happy. And so now you're taking the first girl who will accept you instead of the one that has genuine desire. And if you've never experienced genuine desire, you don't know the difference. So you just go right into this relationship. Next thing you know, she takes half. You know what I'm saying? 80% of divorces initiated by women. You said another thing before. Like I see the human being as sort of like this almost the concept of the brain floating in the jar, and like it's the dopamine and the norepinephrine and the serotonin flowing in and out, the neurochemicals in the brain. And it's like, you'll see people that will have these evolutionary mismatches, like the girl who confuses violence for love, the woman who gets beat by her husband and thinks that's how he shows he loves her. I had Brandy Andrews on here. She was talking about that. That's a mismatch. And the same thing when it's the woman who gets the dopamine hit from all the attention she gets on social media. If that's the thing, then the brain that's floating in the jar gets that dopamine. Then what happens is you become progressively less and less, the novelty seeking, like you were saying, you become progressively less and less novel. For me, I've been eating Chipotle for 10 years now. I never get tired of it. I wear black t-shirts all the time. And I've had this one beautiful orange cat for 12 years and he sleeps next to me. I do not need that much novelty. I don't. But if you find a girl and that's all she needs, then it becomes problematic. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. This is a big controversial concept, a very controversial concept. Orion Terabin brought this up when you interviewed him. The idea of dating 5 women at once to get like multiple dating histories, more experience with dating. I believe men need to date multiple women to get good at dating. I don't believe women need to date multiple men to get good at dating.
I think that as guys, you need to accumulate experience to learn. I think that it takes time and it takes mistakes, and guys feel like they want to settle down with the first hot girl who likes them back. And I think that it's a big pitfall that guys make, especially around kind of the late 20s, around 30-ish age, when guys are finally starting to hit their stride, they're starting to become more successful, and then they finally get a girl that they used to like to say yes to them or whatever, and they just like jump on that opportunity and settle down. And I think it's a big cause of midlife crises later for men, because later on, and I see this actually in a lot of doctor colleagues, they sacrificed so much in their 20s for their profession that they never invested time into learning how to date. And then they settle down with this girl who was the first one to like them back. And then later on in their 40s or 50s, they have this meltdown because they're like, I never had that experience. and they're not actually happy with this girl, or the girl isn't happy with them.
They also don't have the experience to know how to deal with the girl.
Yeah.
They don't know
That's
when
big.
you're being stressed and how you need to react to it.
Yeah, I actually think that being married is the toughest form of game.
Sure. Yeah.
Because if you're in a long-term relationship, you don't have the same opportunities that you would have had when you were single and maybe you were out and about all the time. And you have this familiarity of like her always being with you, which makes it harder. And you're running this in for years and years. So you need to learn that skill set early on, and you learn it through dating.
Yeah. Myron Gaines said you need to sleep with 50 women before you get into a serious relationship. I don't know if that's true. And I have a lot of clients who are religious and don't want to sleep with 50 women. I think 50 women need to want to sleep with you before you get into a serious relationship, because you understand the mechanisms of attraction. If you don't understand the mechanisms of attraction and you get your dating advice from the View and from the 5 love languages and from big tech and from the media and from Disney, if you get your dating advice from them, you're just always going to end up in the wrong place.
Yeah, I think you need to find the guys who have actually had success and have actually lived that lifestyle and learn from them. I think that is one of those things that you have to be careful of who you learn from.
The other part of it, I don't think women need to date a lot of men to be good at dating.
I think that this depends on the person.
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment too much on women. I'm like, it's more my perspective talking about guys. But I think that a lot of guys will like a girl who shows gratitude for the experiences that they share. And I think that the biggest thing for women is being with a guy where you are her best option. You're the best that she's had. And I think that if a girl's been flown down to hang out with a basketball player, that she's less likely to be happy with you in your hometown.
Exactly. Novelty-seeking, excessive levels of stimulus. That's exactly right. It's not just that she went to hang out with the basketball player. It's that somewhere in her brain, she thought that that's what she wanted, or that he was going to settle down with her. That's the big one. It's when she goes to see Drake, or she goes to see the power forward or the center fielder or the movie star, and she actually thinks, because of the attention she got on social media, that she's going to get this guy to commit to her. And then now her entire self, her view, her sexual market value internally, what she believes it is so inflated that she's incapable now of being happy in a regular relationship.
Yeah, I think that girls need to be careful of this, and guys also, is when a girl goes for a guy who is maxed out in one category and is kind of like the elite in that level. So let's say she wants to hook up with a guy who's like really, really good looking, or a guy who's like has very, very high status, is famous, and she pursues those experiences. She is less likely to be happy with a regular guy. And I think that for girls, you should be trying to get a guy who's kind of like pretty well leveled in all different categories. Like, you're not trying to hook up with guys just because they're really good looking, or try and like hang out with these ultra rich guys, because you are going to ruin your own standards for guys later, and you're never going to be happy.
Tell me if you agree or disagree with this idea. Men's sexual market value, I can't derive my own sexual market value, just like I can't derive my bank account, and I can't derive how good of a basketball player I am. The market tells me, right? I'm either playing in the YMCA or I'm playing in the NBA. Men's sexual market value is defined by the quantity and quality of women that will have sex with him. Women's sexual market value is derived by the highest status man that will commit to her.
I largely agree. I think for guys, ultimately, you want to see you have to look at the quality also of the women that you're dating.
Yes.
But yes, you are ultimately, I like to see it as women are the mirror. They reflect what you are. So if you are having success with women, they are objectively telling you that you're doing well. If they're not happy with you or they're not into you, then you need to look into yourself and fix that. I think for women, I think ultimately it's the guy who will commit to her. Mm-hmm. A lot of girls make the mistake, as you said, of looking at a guy on Instagram or hooking up with some rich famous dude or a basketball player or something and feeling that that guy will commit to them. This is a big mistake that a lot of women make, and it's a big problem right now in our social media dating app society, where girls have access to these top level guys.
Yes.
And they can hook up with them, but nothing's going to happen to them. So like one of my buddies, he was dating this girl for like, he was seeing her for a couple of years, and they were just like friends with benefits. She would just come over and she wouldn't spend the night, and she thought that she had a chance, and she stayed in this relationship, stayed with him for a couple of years, thinking that she would ultimately lock him down, but she didn't. And then after that, she was never happy. Like, and she actually talked to him later,
Alpha
saying
widowed.
that, she's like, I'm not happy with guys nowadays seem boring.
Yeah, in Dan Bilzerian's book, The Setup, he interviews his ex-girlfriends. His ex-girlfriends are interviewed in the vignettes in between the chapters, and a lot of them say that. Like this one girl, she said her new boyfriend had to go to therapy because she used to date Dan Bilzerian. And there was another one, God, I can't remember. It was like, yeah, the level of stimulus they were receiving, they've never got that dopamine hit before. The other thing you said before is women will let you know like how well you're doing by, are they upset with you? Here's another thing. Women will sit there and complain about you and then keep having sex with you. That's also letting you know. That's a big one that I noticed. It's like the girl who either complains to me about her boyfriend right before she tries to have sex with me, or the girl who complains about me right before she tries to have sex with me. You start to question in your mind, like, why are you saying these things and then rewarding that man with sex? And so it goes back to what you said before. It's just, I think it's more important to watch their actions.
Yeah. The actions are most important. In fact, sometimes you actually want a little bit of that complaining from the girl. Like, you want to have the girl saying like, I wish we were spending more time together.
Yes.
I wish that you would do more of these things for me, because that lets you know that you're in that attractive man position.
Yeah. Where does jealousy play a role for women and for men?
Yeah, I think from an evolutionary standpoint, I think jealousy is a natural mechanism. For men, they want to understand that their offspring are from them. And that's where that comes from. And I think it's totally natural. For women, it's more so wanting to protect the provisioning that they're getting from their man. So I think there also is a role in that perspective, where if a girl feels like her man is going to be cheating, he might end up getting with that other girl and leaving her.
Yeah.
So there are roles for jealousy from both sides, but I think they have slightly different mechanisms.
Jealousy as an adaptation for men so that they don't get cuckolded evolutionarily.
Yeah.
Like you understand, it's portrayed as this, what's the word? Immature emotion that immature men have. And then when you read the evolutionary psychology literature, it's like, no, this has a reason for existing.
Yeah. And I think that you need to watch your like partner's behavior too. Like if they are doing all these things, like you said, if they're partying with Mike Sartain in Vegas, like
we are the problem. We are the problem. Yeah.
You got to think twice.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get back to more of the dating stuff, but I am kind of interested. I had a therapist come on here recently, and one of the questions I asked her, I was like, do you agree with this? That if you go to therapy and your therapist does not immediately ask you about your diet, workout, and sleep routines, that they're not doing their job. Like the idea that I can use speech therapy without incurring someone's diet, I think is kind of malpractice. What do you think about that?
I like that, actually.
Yeah.
I think that your fitness and how you eat and how you exercise has such a big impact on how you feel. And I think especially for men, we need to do things. Like you need to get into the gym and you need to like put in some hard work and actually feel it and see the transformation to actually believe in yourself and to feel better. I think that a lot of guys spend time just like in their feelings, but you got to get out and do stuff, like in all aspects of your life, in dating, in working out, in your nutrition. And that's going to change things more than anything else.
Andrew Huberman talks about the effects of testosterone. Testosterone makes effort feel good. There's this type of therapy called behavioral activation therapy, where they take the part of CBT, that's cognitive behavioral therapy, and they just take the part that's the active part where you go out and do different activities. And it's actually more powerful and works better than CBT. So talk therapy plus behavioral therapy had an efficacy rate in like the 60 percentile. Behavioral therapy by itself was like 70 percentile. Like it was more effective. And so that makes sense. because this is the part that I think is controversial, because I asked the same therapist, does therapy for a man and a therapy for a woman look different? I think the answer is obviously yes. She didn't think it did. And one of the things I would mention is if I'm playing basketball, dating a beautiful woman, or building something, I'm never unhappy. Like the effort of doing something makes me feel better. But I have 17 times more testosterone than you do. So why wouldn't I need a different type of therapy? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, as men, when you have testosterone, working hard and putting in that hard effort feels good. Like a couple months ago, like I worked like a double shift. I had picked up some work with an extra hospital. So I worked like a full day, and then I came home and I did another evening shift on top of that. And afterwards I felt great. Like I had felt like I'd really accomplished something, you know, and that feeling is very testosterone driven. Yeah. And guys need to learn to chase that feeling, because that's what's going to make you feel better in the long run, not sitting on your couch and watching something on YouTube or Netflix.
So what do you recommend as far as diet? What do you recommend, and what are some myths?
Yeah. So in terms of diet, I'm pretty flexible overall. I think the most important things is to nail your overall calories and then your overall protein. That's going to account for most of the puzzle. Everything beyond that is going to be more so nuances. So once you get your overall calories in order, your protein intake, depending on your goals, you might want to be in a calorie deficit if you're trying to lose fat, or maintenance, or like a lean bulk. Then I recommend people split up their meals over somewhere between 3 to 5 meals a day if you really want to be optimal when it comes to hypertrophy. And I recommend having most of your food come from whole food sources. So about the 80-20 rule works well. So having 80% of your food come from relatively unprocessed whole foods, and then 20% coming from things that you like. And I think that people need to really tweak their food choices to find what works for them to maintain the body fat that they want. Guys often ask me, like a guy just came up to me in the gym a couple days ago and was asking me, how do you stay lean? And I told him, like, at some point you need to change your eating habits, because people get married to the things they eat.
Yes.
Like they have this, whatever, Greek yogurt and nuts and like cheese and for their snack. And like they've done the same thing for like 10 years. And it's not working for a reason, because you need to change what you're eating to affect how you're going to look.
Isn't it wild? Like, of all the things, as you get older, your testosterone levels go down, right? There's all these changes that happen to you biologically, but my appetite is exactly what it was when I was 17 years old. Like, I can kill a chicken fried steak. Now, I'm not saying I feel good afterwards. I feel terrible. My body can't handle it. But my desire to eat that whole pepperoni pizza, it's exactly what it was. Like, there's no evolution in this whatsoever as I got older. Just like older men still prefer younger women, like, and as men get older, they're still looking for women in their 20s and 30s. As I get older, my appetite doesn't subside because my metabolism is slowed down at all. It's one of the weirdest evolutionary kind of mismatches that happen. It's like I don't have the metabolism anymore to burn those calories like I did when I was 17 to go to Wendy's every day, but I still want that food. You understand? That's what makes it so difficult. You said something before about if you want to do your protein intake and then your total calories. So you would reduce the amount of carbs and fat that you eat, increase the level of protein, while at the same time lowering the number of total calories, counting your macros.
Yeah, so you don't need your protein to be that crazy. I think somewhere around 1 gram per pound of your lean body weight is going to be good. And then after that, you want to lower carbs and fats. I think, first of all, cutting out unnecessary fats and sugars is going to be the first thing you should do. Trying to reduce processed foods, and a lot of hidden calorie sources. Like when you go to restaurants and you don't know what's in the food you're eating, it's probably a lot higher calorie than you think. But trying to make those shifts, and I think just getting used to eating a lot more of whole unprocessed foods, a lot more fruits and vegetables. Upping your fiber intake is a great one to look at if you're going to look at nutrition facts. Look at the sugar and carb intake, and look at the fiber content. But changing your food choices to just being a lower calorie density is going to make the biggest difference.
What about trying to do that and supplementing that with protein shakes, because those are processed, or Quest bars, or those core body things that have like 42 grams of protein in every one? Is that something you'd supplement with, or do you just recommend not doing that?
The main benefit of protein supplements is convenience. Ultimately, it's not really going to make much of a difference in terms of the muscle building ability that you're going to get from it, but it's mainly just because it's easy. Like if you got to run to work and you're just going to grab a bottled protein shake.
So I'm 214. Getting 200 grams of protein every day, like in an 8-hour period, I have to think about what I'm doing. Like sometimes it's hard to do that. And so you can supplement sometimes with the protein shake or whatever to get to that number.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I would mention though is that if you are trying to lower calorie intake, a whole food protein source is going to keep you more full for the same calories.
Got it.
So having a protein shake versus like a chicken breast, the chicken breast might actually be a better bet if you're trying to lower calories just because it's going to keep you more satiated.
You brought this up vaguely in one of your videos about CrossFit. Is it CrossFit? Are there any? And you also, I love the stuff with the Mark Wahlberg thing where he's doing upper and lower bodies at the same time, and he's not getting the effect that he's looking for that you would get from progressive overload. Can you go over the CrossFit fad, like how big it got, and then any other fads that you see that are like that, where it's like you're still burning calories, but it's not efficient?
Yeah. So CrossFit is like the mortal enemy of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I'll take on anyone in the comments.
Yeah.
Kidding. But it's because that CrossFit trains a lot of things in a very haphazard fashion, and it's just not pointed enough to really enact change in your body composition. So the problem with a lot of training out there is that people will try to have these like complex routines that they think will train every part of their body in one movement. Like some of those things, and you'll see celebs doing where they're like doing battle ropes or trying to like do a lunge and a push over their head at the same time, where you're just dispersing a lot of force, but you're not really making the target muscle the limiting factor. So when you look at exercises for a muscle growth routine, you want to first think, is this exercise limited by my target muscle first? So if you're limited just by your overall fatigue or just like something else, then it's not a good exercise for that muscle group. The most efficient way to build muscle is a bodybuilding routine. And I think that everyone should train like natural bodybuilders if they're trying to build muscle, because that's just going to be the most efficient way. I know a guy who's spending like 3 hours a day right now working out. He'll like do these workout classes, but he like complains about not seeing the change in his physique that he wants because you're not training for that adaptation.
Yeah.
CrossFit is just like you're fit, like you're doing a lot of work, but it's not going to really necessarily change your physique in the way that you might want it to.
So I had Jay Cutler on the show, the former professional bodybuilder. And one of the things he talked about was he'd find a muscle group. He'd do like 210 reps on that one muscle, like an extreme example of what you're talking about. He would just like destroy one body part or maybe 2 per day and then just do that every day. But at the same time, he's also eating, God, what was it? How many, I don't remember if you were there, Travis, when we interviewed him. Was it 39 eggs he would eat every day? I can't remember, some crazy number. And he would buy an entire cow and butcher the thing and then just eat meat to the point. It was just nuts. But of course, he's the Sandow world champion. He's like 4-time bodybuilding world champion. But he's actually got me to change a lot of what I do, because I'll spend an entire day just doing nothing but just trying to destroy chest and triceps. Another day just trying to do back, stuff like that. Just focusing on progressive overload in one muscle group.
Yeah, I think progressive overload is the most important thing overall.
Yeah.
I think in terms of building a routine, you want to be focused on that progressive overload.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, you want to choose the right exercises. You want to focus on heavy compounds. I don't always agree with having like a routine where you're just really blasting one muscle group.
Okay.
I usually recommend people try and split up their training for each muscle group across about 2 or more sessions per week. So I usually like around a twice per week frequency is a good balance, because if you're doing like 20 sets of back in one workout, by the time you get to those last 5 sets, your back is so fatigued that you're not going to be performing as well in terms of the total tonnage that you're able to move as if you had split it over 10 sets and 10 sets.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would suggest that.
So you would say, so for a body part, you would do 10 sets on Monday and 10 sets on Wednesday?
Yeah. Like Monday and, Thursday, or like try and split it up.
Try to split it up. Okay.
I think is going to be better. You're going to squeeze out more volume overall.
So also another thing that Jay Cutler told me that I thought was crazy is, so he played football in high school and he had these massive legs, which makes sense. I mean, that's what he's most known for. He's like, I didn't work out my lower body for 3 years until my upper body caught up to my lower body. And the reason why I bring that up is like, so for instance, my family's South American, and all the guys in my family have these massive legs and these tiny little arms. And So in the weight training, how do you do that to get like the symmetrical? I'm sure you've seen the guy before. It's like natural, big legs, small arms, and then the opposite, the guy who looks like he skips leg day, small legs, big arms. Do you train more or do you train heavier with that smaller body part?
Yeah, I think the first thing you want to look at is the overall volume that you're doing. So some people will just need to allocate more training towards their weak muscle groups. So if you feel like you don't have legs, then you just need to do more sets of legs. You maybe do something wrong with your training, like if you're choosing the wrong exercises that are not targeting, so you might want to switch that up. And then also playing around with just the programming, like rep ranges and frequency for those muscle groups. But the short answer is usually people are not doing enough. Like you just need to do more sets. You can't get around not training legs. Like you need to put in that work. And some muscle groups are going to be more volume resistant than others. So for example, like I do twice the number of sets for my back than for my chest.
Yeah.
It's not like 1-to-1 for different muscle groups. You need to find that balance for yourself.
Yeah, that's what I found as well. Like my triceps stay the same size no matter what. If I don't eat for a while or if I don't train a while, my biceps shrink. So it's like genetically, I understand some muscle groups are. My calves, no matter what I do, are stay the same size. They're the same size. They're big, and they've been big since I was 18 years old. They just, but like my dad, same way, big old calves, like tiny little arms. So it's like I've seen some muscle groups where I have to work out more, like you said, more sets than with others. The other thing I want to ask you about, this is a big one. Alex Ramosi makes this video. He goes, I made a lot of money today, and I didn't make my bed. I didn't take a cold plunge. I didn't do any red light therapy. I didn't read a book for a bunch of times. I just did the work. You talked about, I have some friends of mine who do this. I love Jocko Willink. Wes Watson's a friend of mine. It's now I'm waking up 3 a.m. Now I'm waking up at 2:55 a.m. And it's like this measuring contest to see who can get up the earliest. And you mentioned you don't have to wake up this early in order for you to get a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I say prioritize sleep.
Yeah.
I'd rather sleep in than try and get up and do a 10-minute cold plunge like or red light therapy or all those things. I think that the most important variable is you getting up and putting in the work, like getting up and putting in time on the things that are going to be the biggest game changers in whatever you need to do in your life. Like I think you can try sitting down and writing down what are the like top 3 things that are going to make my life better right now, and spend like all of your time on those things. And anything that gets in the way of those things is on some level wasted time.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy. What is a widely held belief that you think is wrong?
Just in life?
Yeah.
Like in everything?
In life, we do go over dating, we can go over diet, we can go over muscle hypertrophy.
I think a big thing that people get wrong is feeling that their personality and who they are is static. I think that there's so much room for you to change who you are. People think that my math teacher in grade 8 told me that I suck at math, so now I'm never going to be good.
Yes.
And they don't believe in their own potential. I think you need to understand that every part of your life and every part of your personality can be changed to some extent. Maybe you're going to be limited by genetics to some level, but you are going to be able to change yourself in a dramatic way. Like I remember at one point starting to get into bodybuilding, and people would be like telling me like, why are you spending so much time doing this? And they're like, they didn't see the vision, and it took 10 years for me to change my physique and, you know, win a pro card. But when I did my first bodybuilding show, I came last. And I remember going to that show, and when you turn pro as a bodybuilder, they give you a weapon. They give, in our federation, you get a sword when you turn pro as a physique athlete. And I saw them giving out these swords, and I'd come last, and I'm like, one day I'm going to win one of those.
Yes.
And it took 7 years, but eventually I came back and I did it. And if you don't believe in yourself, you're never going to get there, because you're never going to try and you're never going to put in that investment.
Yeah. This is a question I ask a lot of my guests. Is there a historical event somewhere in time that you think is underrated? Like for me, it's like broad spectrum antibiotics. I really think people take that for granted, right? High speed internet, stuff like that.
That people take for granted. I mean, I think the phone, I think is just an amazing piece of technology. I think the fact that we're able to do so much, the fact that we're able to generate content now, especially with AI coming down the tube, I think people are sleeping on social media and not like putting stuff out. Like the fact that I can post a video and reach like 10,000 people and just give them a workout program or whatever it is I want to do. I think that is such an amazing like opportunity that no one has ever had in history before. And I think that if you're not trying to do something in the world and not trying to reach out more people, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, think about how Albert Einstein had to go through like James Clerk Maxwell and Isaac Newton's work. He didn't have the internet to do it. Like, he had to literally break open the book and then like build on the shoulders of giants. And like you said before, there's so much free content on YouTube. Not only is there free content on YouTube, I can literally have an AI model scrape the free content on YouTube and then give me a plan on how to do the next thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, an incredible advantage. So yeah, artificial intelligence. I'll tell you one that I thought was interesting recently was, I just got my blood work from LabCorp yesterday, and I was like, the fact that they can give me this much data in less than 24 hours is crazy. Like that to me is a crazy thing. DNA testing, just testing for diseases, the genetic testing, that to me is one of the craziest, most underrated historical things I think I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
A controversial evidence-based belief that the mainstream disagrees with.
Evidence-based belief. I mean, a lot of things in natural bodybuilding go against what the popular bro science would say.
Okay.
I think that protein is one thing. Like, you don't need as much protein as people might actually say.
Some people say 2 grams for every pound.
I said 1 gram, but you can probably get away with like 0.8.
Yeah.
Which is actually not as much as people think. I think just in general that the bodybuilding lifestyle doesn't have to be as extreme as you would think.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is surprised when they ask how many days I work out, and I tell them I just train 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Like, people think that you need to be in the gym every day and putting in like 2 or 3 hours a day, when a lot of pro natural bodybuilders only work out 4 or 5 times a day, 4 or 5 times a week, in order to turn pro. And like Jeff Alberts, that guy I mentioned who was 5th in the world at 52, he only trains 4 times a week. You don't actually need that much to have a great physique.
Yeah. What kind of criticisms do you face with your public image? And then what kind of criticisms do you have of, like you said before, the bro science? I'm trying to fight the bro science as well. What are the most common criticisms that you get?
I think usually it's just haters in the comments trying to heckle you and like make fun of you. But what I realize is that when you have haters, that actually means that you're doing well.
Yes.
Like, I remember talking to this old friend of mine from med school, and he was like, Bill, like, I was talking to one of our other old classmates, another med student, and they were like, on your name, just being like, oh, this Dr. Swole guy, like, putting out content. And my buddy's like, when I heard that, that's when I knew that Bill made it.
Yeah.
Like, when you have haters, that means you're really striking a chord. Like, when our top YouTube video, that short, hit 112 million views, and what made it blow up was actually haters.
Yeah.
People in the comments who were just like mind blown that, like, girls would like a natural physique more than like Chris Bumstead.
Yeah.
And they just like wouldn't believe it, and they just couldn't get over it. And you have to learn to like get over that feeling and get over that resistance to having those hated comments and embracing it.
Yeah.
And like, that really taught me to just embrace controversy.
That is so true. It's one of the hardest things to deal with. I heard Ty Lopez tell me this once. It's one of the hardest things to deal with is this idea that there's this I don't know what I'm saying, anonymous person behind an anonymous user tag who's saying something personal to try to hurt you. And like, it's just so many, at first it's like so many questions, then maybe you're angry, then you're dealing with them. And then like, you realize none of them come talk to your face. I do this all the time. I ask guys to come debate me on Twitter Spaces. They never show up. They just make little passive aggressive comments in the thing. And then the other part was like, yeah, now you know you're doing well, which kind of leads me to another idea, which is the confluence of these two ideas, which is your fitness routine, your content creator, and then dating. Have you found that being a more competent content creator and being known for that also helps you in your dating life as far as status is concerned?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we live in a society now that prizes social media. Like, social media has become the currency or the medium for attention to be transferred.
Yeah.
And girls love attention. They love that kind of the status that comes from that. I think that having a following on social media is a form of generalized status. I think that you can break status down into more contextual forms of status and then more generalized forms of status. So like the most generalizable form of status might be like, say you're like, you know, probably like a mainstream celebrity or actor, right? Like if you're Drake. And then you might have a more contextualized form of status, like if you were the president of a chess club, like in your university or something. All those work on the girl, like the more contextual form will be more like applicable just to the girls in that niche, and something that's more generalized will be more widely like sought after or respected. But having a social media following is a very generalized form of status, and I think that I've universally seen it. Like you will see girls like get excited when they see that your follower count or whatever. It totally is a thing.
When you say universally, one of the things I like to bring up is everybody wanted Megan Fox, but now she's dating a guy covered in tattoos who wears a pink dress. Like there's no good guy status and bad guy status. Meaning like sometimes the guy who has status and is the bad guy, maybe Jake Paul, right? The troll, he still gets the girl, right? One of the issues I have is a lot of my Eastern European clients, my German clients, a lot of my Indian clients, a lot of my Asian clients, they come from a homogenous society where they're being taught by their family to be the good boy, which earns you the good girl. But then you see The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Donald Trump and Jordan Belfort, and I can name 50 other guys who were the bad guy who got, I partied twice with O.J. Simpson. Just white women following this guy around all over the place. You can be the bad guy and still get the good girl.
Yeah, I think that what guys get wrong is what comes first is attraction and value. That comes from value. But you can be a value, you can have high value, whether you're a good or a bad person. Like morality is actually a separate like variable.
Yeah, it's not good to be immoral. It's just the idea that you think you need to be a paragon of virtue to get the good virgin. And that's just not how the world works.
Yeah. 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 Girls will respond to power and they will respond to that status.
Yeah. What is the biggest misconception about you?
Misconception. I think people just don't understand that I can do so many different things, I guess, like have hands in different pots. Like they feel that when you're in the radiology is a very analytical specialty. Like you're like a diagnostician. It's very knowledge heavy. It's funny. And when you go into med school that all the different subspecialties of medicine have different stereotypic personalities. So the classic jock is like ortho, so like the bone surgeons, like smashing like nails into femurs. And then the stereotypical nerd is like radiology or pathology. And it's funny because like I applied to both orthopedic surgery and radiology, and it's like people don't understand that like dichotomy is possible, that you could have a personal life outside where you're like doing all these other things, that I'm into fitness and like talk about relationships and dating. And I think that you just have to break out of that stereotype. Like, don't let people put you into a box.
Yeah.
People will, in high school, they will like get siloed into like a box. People will say like, oh yeah, you're such a good physicist. Like that's your thing. And then people make it their identity. And this happens a lot in medicine, where I feel that people make medicine their identity and feel like they can't do other things.
Yeah.
Like we talked about this before the show, but guys in medicine feel like it has to become their whole personality. But there's so much more of the world that you can access and that you can do.
One mysterious thing, I've dated 3 girls from Kelowna. What the is going on in the water there? Like I see these pictures, there's all these super in shape girls, Kelowna kind of just outside of Vancouver. What is it about that part of the world? Also, I've dated some girls from Vancouver and they're all in shape. All of them. I just don't. Is there like just no obesity there? Like what is Vancouver?
Oh man, dude.
Yeah,
man. Like obesity rates in the States, like here compared to Canada, it's like ridiculous. Like in medicine, just working at LA County and seeing all of the obese people, I think it's sad to see, honestly. But Canada's like, we do way better overall in terms of like, I think just overall.
Well, I think you do better in Vancouver than they do in Toronto. Like the girls I see there are all of them. I've just been blown away. Every girl I know from Kelowna is like a 10. I don't know if you've had the same experience.
I've noticed that in bodybuilding circles, there's actually a lot more bodybuilders from the suburbs rather than from the main central city. Because when girls are in a really big city, like in New York, they feel like they have so many fun things that they can be doing
Yes.
rather than going to the gym. Whereas in a place like Kelowna, like the girls don't have as many they don't have access to go to. So they're more likely to go to the gym on a Friday night rather than trying to go to the club.
All of them go to the gym. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually think that it's underrated to look for girls who have had that lifestyle, and they're more likely to come from the quieter places.
Not only more quieter places, they're getting their stimulus from going to the gym, not from going to do Molly at Burning Man. Like that's, I think, a really key difference. Like they're interested in improving themselves, and they get the dopamine rush that you get from lifting and having a healthier lifestyle, which doesn't include, 2C, Molly, and ketamine. You understand what I'm saying? Like that I like that. That I do like gym girls. That's definitely a big plus.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that guys should go for the girls in their gym. Like, think about it.
Have you noticed? This is something I've noticed, and I'm looking for more data on this. There's a book called Grain Brain by Dr. Daniel Perlmutter, where it goes over the concept of gluten creating plaque on the brain, which leads to Alzheimer's. Have you noticed people, when they gain a bunch of weight, it changes their neurology? I've just seen the people, they put on 100 pounds and then all of a sudden the earth is flat. Weird, just weird controversies and conspiracies they believe in. Is there any science behind that?
There is evidence that getting into shape and working out will increase your cognitive ability.
Yes.
So I think that there absolutely is a correlation to some extent in terms of how crazy you're going to go with your conspiracy theories. I'm not sure about that, but I think that working out does make you smarter. I think that it's underrated.
Well, I appreciate this. Where can people find you, man?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. I think that's my main thing. Dr. Swole, just search me up. I share a lot of free workout programs, so it's an easy way to get in without having to pay for anything.
Yeah.
Start a program, start transforming your physique and your life.
Awesome. And you're still doing full-time radiology in Vancouver?
Yeah, I'm in LA this year.
Oh, LA, okay.
And then I'm moving back to Vancouver.
Is it part of the residency?
Fellowship.
Fellowship, got it. Okay, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Very cool. Is there any cool radiology stories? Someone accidentally put a scissors in their butt or something like that? Any weird?
Oh, man. There's a buddy of mine who has a collection of foreign bodies in people's rectums that people come to the ER with. It's pretty funny. I think with one we saw, people had shoved up a bunch of jewelry. I think it was some guy who was in a gang, and he was getting jumped, and he was just trying to protect his assets. But people put a lot of things in there, and it's funny because people will always not own up to it. They'll say oh, it was an accident. I just fell on it.
Yeah.
And it's a 10-inch dildo. And it's bro, we know that's not true.
He did fall on it. It just wasn't an accident. Incredible. Those must be amazing stories, man. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, man. Make sure you guys check this guy out on his YouTube channel. Some great workout tips. Thank you guys for joining us again. This has been so much fun starting the podcast up again. I really appreciate all the comments. A shout out again to all you people on Spotify and Apple who are listening to it with no video. I really do appreciate it. I didn't realize that many people were watching or listening to the show on there. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you all next week.